Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Sunday. Welcome to Case by Case. My name's Amy. Today, this recording is being done on Sunday, November 19th at approximately 12:47. For those of you who are watching the replay or going back to review information on this case, you'll know exactly when this recording was put out. With me today, I have Rhonda and I have Cherie. Both of you ladies would like to say hello.
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 Today we are going to be going over the dispositional hearing transcripts for Jasmine Parker. And this is a total of 18 pages with the conclusion at the end with impact statements. We've dissected this document, so we all have different parts that we'll be reading to decipher who's saying what. Hopefully it doesn't get confusing. But a little bit of background on this channel. It's a brand new channel. We are deep diving into the Nicole Bowen case for the benefit of revealing information that never came out in Ashley Garth's trial. Rhonda, who is with me today, is a member of the Foul Play channel, and Cherie is as well. Rhonda is she has a criminal justice bachelor's degree, and she's been working on building her community on her channel that's called Just Rhonda. The link for her channel will be in the show notes here. She covers the case for Daniel Holtzclaw, who she believes has been wrongfully convicted. And Cherie is from New York. She is a lawyer, and she works in tenant law, and she obtained her degree from Syracuse University. So everyone here has a little bit of background, and we bring a bunch of useful tools to the table, so to speak. And we are going to get right into it, so everyone else can follow along with the pages on the screen. And of course, this is pre-recorded, but if you have any questions or any comments, go ahead and drop them. And one of us will try to answer them as they come up throughout the course of this video being online. So ladies, are you ready?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and get through page 1. Rhonda, is that you?
So sorry.
Were you talking and muted?
I was muted. I'm so sorry. I was muted. Yep, I was almost through the page and I was muted.
That's
I'm
okay.
so sorry. You'll have to edit this out part. Sorry. Okay.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
State of Indiana, County of Newton, in the Newton Superior Court 2019 term. State of Indiana plaintiff versus Jasmine N. Parker defendant. Before the Honorable Daniel J. Moulter, cause number 56B01-1904-F5-380. Dispositional hearing, date October 7th, 2019. Appearances, on behalf of the state of Indiana, Mrs. Rebecca G. Goddard. On behalf of the defendant, Mr. Ryan D. Washburn. Marissa Engel, official court reporter.
Page 2.
Proceedings commence. Yep. Proceedings commence 9/16/32. October 7, 2019. Present are the Honorable Daniel J. Moulter, Judge, Mrs. Rebecca G. Goddard, Deputy Prosecuting Attorney, Mr. Ryan D. Washburn, Counsel for the defendant, Ms. Jasmine N. Parker, the defendant.
Jasmine Parker, 1904-F5 380.
By Mr. Washburn. Judge, we've reached an agreement with the state in this matter. Ms. Parker will be pleading to assisting a criminal as a level 5 felony, as well as admitting to her status as a habitual offer. She will be serving 1 year of incarceration on the level 5, with an additional 4 years to run consecutively with the Department of Corrections with purposeful incarceration on the habitual status. Judge, may I approach with an executed agreement?
Certainly. Will there be victim advocate testimony today?
Mrs. Goddard, yes.
I'd like to make sure you understand, Ms. Parker. In the first place, the court is not a part of this agreement. This is between you and the state of Indiana. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you understand that because I'm not a part of it, I can't change the terms of the agreement? I either accept it as presented or reject it as presented. I won't make that decision until I've heard from victim advocates and anyone else that has a concern. Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're going to be admitting the truth of the material elements of the particular charge that you're pleading guilty to, assisting a criminal?
Yes.
And you'll also be admitting that you have 3 prior unrelated felony convictions,
Yes.
and at least one of those is more than a level 6, right? Two prior, yes. Do you understand you're waiving your right to have a trial by jury?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
You won't have a trial if you plead guilty.
Right.
And with a trial by jury or by the bench, you'd have an opportunity to confront the state's witnesses and have witnesses come and testify for you as well. You waive that right if you plead guilty.
Yes.
You won't confront your accusers if you plead guilty. Do you understand that?
Yes.
And of course, it's the burden of the state to establish each material element beyond a reasonable doubt before a conviction could be entered. You waive that right by pleading guilty. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you understand you're waiving your right against self-incrimination, where you can't be made to testify against yourself because you're going to have to testify against yourself in order for the court to accept the plea?
Yes.
Are you sure you want to do that?
Yes.
Are you sure you want to waive your right to a jury?
Yes.
You're going to waive your right to make the state prove each material element beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yes.
You also have the right to have counsel represent you the whole way through these proceedings, trial and appeal, at no cost to you.
Yes.
You're waiving that. You're also waiving your right to take an appeal if you plead guilty to the charge. You also agree to the sentence. You wouldn't be able to appeal your sentence either because you're agreeing to the sentence. Are you sure you understand that?
Yes.
Have you been threatened or coerced or somehow been made to enter into this plea against your own free and voluntary will?
No, I haven't.
Are you satisfied with the services of Mr. Washburn? Do you think he has properly represented you?
Yes.
Do you understand that your plea and subsequent sentence will affect the imposition of harsher sentences for future crimes? This is a case in point. The fact that you're going to be adjudicated a habitual offender is worse than if you hadn't been. Your prior convictions are coming back to haunt you now.
Right.
Do you understand that?
Yes.
And yet, you still wish to enter a plea of guilty to assisting a criminal. Is that right?
Yes.
As a level 5 felony that carries from 1 to 6 years in prison and fines up to $10,000, any portion of which can be suspended. Do you understand that?
Yes.
But you're agreeing to a 1-year sentence that's going to be enhanced by an additional 5, right?
Additional
Mr.
four,
Washington.
Judge. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. By Mr. Washburn, additional 4, Judge, and additional 4 years.
1 and 4?
1 and 4, Judge.
Is that your understanding of the terms of the agreement?
Yes.
Do you know that this will affect the imposition of harsher sentences in the future? If you get another conviction, it will get worse the next time. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to swear you, and we're going to get a factual basis. Do you understand?
Yes. Please stand. Do you solemnly swear or
Please
affirm
stand.
Bailiff,
Go ahead,
please,
Therese.
bailiff, please stand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm any testimony you shall give in this case before the court today shall be the truth, so help you God? Yes, bailiff. Please be seated. Speak clearly for the record when questioned.
Factual basis. Direct examination by Mr. Washburn. Please state your full name for the record.
Jasmine Nicole Parker,
What's your birth date?
June 21st, 1984.
I'd like to direct your attention to March 29, 2019. Do you recall where you were?
At home,
Where is that?
2750 West 1400, here in Kentland, in the trailer park.
What county is that in?
Newton,
What state?
Indiana.
Do you have any kind of parent, child, or spousal relationship with Garrett Kurtz?
No,
Did you fail to contact law enforcement with the direct knowledge of the murder of Nicole Bowen?
yes, I did.
And did that in an attempt, and you did that in an attempt to conceal or hinder apprehension or punishment of Garrett Kurtz?
Yes,
You understand that is assisting a criminal under Indiana law,
yes,
and it's contrary to the forms and the statutes of the peace and dignity of the state of Indiana.
yes,
Further, I'd like to direct your attention to September 25th, 2018. Were you convicted in Jasper County of a level 6 felony?
yes,
Was that unlawful possession of a syringe?
yes,
And that was in cause 37C01-1807-F6-669.
yes,
And again, I'll direct your attention to August 20th, 2004. Were you convicted of burglary as a Class B felony in Tippecanoe County?
yes,
And that was under cause 79C01-0403-FB3.
yes,
And so you understand that that is 2 prior felony convictions.
yes,
And you're admitting that you have a habitual offender status.
yes,
And you understand that in that you're getting a 4-year enhancement to your sentence.
Yes.
And you're going to serve 1 year on the level 5.
Yes.
A total of 5 years in the Department of Corrections.
Yes.
Back on March 29, 2019, were you under the influence of drugs?
Oh, yeah.
Do you have a drug problem?
Yes.
Is it your intention to engage in purposeful incarceration as it relates to your drug problem?
Yes.
No further questions, Judge.
Miss Goddard. No questions?
How did you come to have direct knowledge of the murder of the young lady?
It happened at my house.
It was at your house,
Yeah.
in your presence.
Yeah.
What steps did you take to conceal it?
I didn't call 911 or the cops. I didn't let anybody know.
Are you saying you didn't call 911 right away at that moment?
Right.
Was there a point when the police interviewed you that you denied any knowledge of it?
Yes.
Was that the night or a couple of nights later?
A couple nights later.
And so you also lied to the police about your knowledge of
Yes.
this happened in your presence?
Yes.
Any follow-up questions, Miss Goddard?
No.
Mr. Washburn. Nothing, Judge. Thank you.
And you want to put the witnesses on?
Mrs. Goddard. Yes, that state, no, the state would like to call Cheryl Samuels, bailiff. Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm any testimony you shall give in this cause before the court today shall be the truth, so help you God?
Miss Samuels. I do.
Direct examination by Ms. Goddard. Can you state your name for the record, please?
Cheryl Samuels.
Are you familiar with the defendant in this case?
I don't know her, just from this happening.
In what way are you connected to this case?
Nicole was my second child, my last, my baby.
So you're the mother of the victim?
I am.
Do you have a statement you'd like to give to the court today?
I sure do.
Please go ahead.
First of all, Your Honor, there are a couple of words in there. I don't mean to offend you, but this is how I feel. I don't want to offend you in your courtroom by saying them. Do you see this picture?
Yes.
You took this from these boys. This boy is 9. This boy is 3. This boy will never remember his mom except for seeing her laying in her coffin that day. So I want you to look at this picture of this girl. You took that because you couldn't call. You were too scared to call. You were a coward, in my opinion. Now I'll start my speech. Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Cheryl Samuels. On April 1st, 2019, at approximately 8:30 p.m., 2 Tippecanoe County Sheriff officers were standing in our living room. They were there to inform us that our daughter, Nicole Bowen, was found deceased on Saturday, March 30th, 2019. My first thought was that Nicole had just turned 30 on March 4th. She will now be forever 30. Then I had the task of telling Nicole's child, this boy right here, that somebody murdered his mom. I will never forget the look on his face or the way he cried. I should have never had to tell him that somebody killed his mom. I should have never had to bury my daughter at 30. Nicole was taken away from her two boys, ages 9 and 3. Her 9-year-old will have the memories of singing, the playing, dancing, watching movies, and just being with his mommy. Her 3-year-old will not. That little guy can only talk about, my mommy is tired, my mommy is sleeping. Or he will say, my mommy died, a bad man killed her. All because what he saw was his mommy at the funeral home laying in her coffin. He would go up there and he would say, my mommy's tired, my mommy's sleeping. When we put her in the ground that day, he started crying and screaming and saying, no, my mommy's in there. My mommy's in there. Because you were a coward and couldn't call. Nicole and her boys will never get to share hugs and kisses, never get to laugh and cry together or run and play. The boys will never get to share their hopes and dreams with their mommy. Nicole will never be with the boys as they learn to drive, as they go to their first school dances, or as they graduate from high school and then college. Nicole will never be able to celebrate their marriages. She will never have the joy of being called grandma. Nicole's children will have to be told that their grandma was murdered. How fair is that? You, however, will be able to interact with your family. You will continue to live your life. Your parents will be able to talk to you. And what do we get? This is what I get. This is what I get now. Her headstone. That's the only place I can go where my daughter is at. I know she's all around me, but this is what I get to talk to. I don't get to sit there face to face with my child anymore because you were a coward. I ask silently every day, why? Why did this have to happen? How could you be there and witness everything and not care enough to try to stop it? Why did you not run away and call 911? I know it's all been said. You should find forgiveness in those who have wronged you. I, however, will never forgive you. As far as I'm concerned, you're nothing but a piece of shit. My wish for you is that every time you close your eyes, you are haunted with the memory of what you witnessed and did nothing to stop. Nothing to try to save a person's life. You did nothing to try to save Nicole. May you be haunted with the look on Nicole's face as you stood and watched the bastard drain the life out of her. You are and always will be a piece of shit to me. I'm perfectly at peace with the way I feel about you. I know they're not here, but I want to thank all of the agencies involved. They worked swiftly to catch all of the scumbags involved. I want to thank Detective Rowe and Sergeant Wilson who came to our house. They made a special trip down to our house to meet Nicole's boys. They took the time to show her boys the police car, let them turn the sirens on, and talk to Nicole's oldest son about the equipment in the car because he wants to be a canine officer. He wants to be a canine. He wanted to be a canine officer ever since I can remember him talking. He wants to be a canine officer even stronger now to protect the community from scum like you. May you rot in hell.
Are there any follow-up questions, Mrs. Goddard?
No.
Okay. I'm not going to ask any, by the way. It's my understanding that as proceedings conclude, she will be immune from any further prosecution with regard in this case. Is that true?
Miss Goddard, that is not true.
Mr. Washburn, that was our understanding with the elected prosecutor.
Miss Goddard, I'm not aware of that term. Should additional information?
Mr. Washburn, may we approach, Judge? A sidebar was held and concluded at 9:36. Factual basis continued. Direct examination by Mr. Washburn. Do you know you're still under oath?
Yeah,
The witness from the state had some questions in her statement. It's the court's desire that you address some of those issues. Why did you not at all, not just that night, but for days, contact law enforcement?
I was scared that I would get in trouble for what Garrett did.
Did you know what was going on in the trailer that day?
Not all of it.
But you knew.
Something was going on.
And you knew after Nicole had passed away, you knew that she had passed away.
Yes,
And you knew that her body was moved.
yes,
And you did nothing.
Yes.
Yes.
The court.
yes.
Any follow-up?
Mrs. Goddard, no.
Were you there when the crime took place?
I was in the bathroom and they were in the living room.
Did you know what was going on?
No,
When did you learn what was going on?
when it was done.
The reason I'm asking that, I'm not defending, I'm trying to address some issues. Your references to her as a coward. What I'm trying to get at is whether or not she even had the means to do anything at the very moment. Could she have saved Nicole, is what I'm saying. I don't know. That's what I was trying to find out. The follow up, yes. Do you see where I'm coming from? If she had no ability, no means to save her, that's another story. I don't know the answer to that.
Miss Samuels, can I say something?
Certainly, I'm doing this kind of therapeutically, if nothing else, to get answers. I'm not going to try to defend the case, but you raise a point. You're calling her a coward and everything, but the question is, did she have the means to stop it?
Miss Samuels. Okay, she was a coward because she didn't call it in right away. She was a coward because they threw my daughter away like a piece of trash. But I don't believe that she didn't know what was going on. I don't believe that. Nicole had to have been screaming for her life. Did you hear any of that?
They were fighting in the very beginning and I walked away. She never made any noises after that.
Miss Samuels. But why didn't you try to stop them from fighting?
Because it was just a normal girl fight.
Okay, but I still don't believe that you didn't know what was going on. I'll never believe that. You can tell me that every day for the rest of your life, but I think you're just covering your ass.
All I'm trying to do is bring some kind of comfort by virtue.
There's never going to be comfort, Your Honor. I appreciate that, but it's really hard for us. They're all going to say something to try to make themselves look better in my eyes. I'm sorry, but I don't believe she didn't know what was going on.
You are perfectly entitled to do that. I don't dispute that. I'm trying to bring this stuff out. You folks have been polite, so I'm giving you your day in court too. Is there nothing further? I'll allow her to step down and you can call your next witness.
Mrs. Goddard, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And we do want meaningful input.
I do, and I appreciate it.
Mrs. Goddard, Your Honor, before the state calls in its next witness, I do want to make your one point of clarification on the record. I apologize. I did not have this in my file, but there has been an agreement entered between defense counsel and the elected prosecutor that Ms. Parker will be immune from further charges in this case.
Mr. Washburn. Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Mrs. Goddard.
Mrs. Goddard, Your Honor, the state would call Brittany Bell, the bailiff. Raise your hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm any testimony you shall give in this cause before the court today shall be the truth, so help you God? No audible answer. Please be seated. Speak clearly for the record when questioned.
Brittany Bell, direct examination by Mrs. Goddard.
Can you please state your name for the record?
Brittany Bell.
Ms. Bell, are you familiar with the defendant in this case?
I'm only familiar with her from this case.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Only familiar with her from the case.
Okay, are you related to the victim in this case?
I am her older sister.
Do you have a statement you would like to give to the court today?
Yeah,
Please do.
I'm not really as strong as my mom.
The court. That's okay, ma'am. This is your day. Use it.
I've been in therapy for 6 months dealing with the death of my sister. I mean, I'm here today as a representative of her. We're only 2 years apart. I'm 33 years old, and now I have to go through my whole life without my sister. Every moment that pops up, every song, every time I see my nephews, it's without her. I know you said you were scared. I can only imagine how scared she was in that moment. I know you said it was a brawl or a girl fight, but if you didn't hear her, that should have been an indication something was wrong. It's only been 6 months, but it feels like yesterday, over and over again. My nephew just spent his first birthday without his mom, and he's going to spend every birthday after without her. My nephews now have me to remind them of their mom. That's a job I'm going to have to hold up to for them, to keep living and keep breathing for her and for them, to be at their practices and their games and all of their life journeys. That's me, and that's a weight I carry, not with just pure joy of being their aunt, but in lieu of that, they don't have their mom. It's not fair for them, and they can't be here to say anything. I know my nephew would. He is very, very strong little guy. He spoke at her funeral that he hopes that justice is brought for them, and he has faith in that. I understand that the state of Indiana sees these things for certain terms. However, just 1 year, just for however, just 1 year for just my sister is not enough. We have to live our whole life with this. We don't get to just say it's done after 1 year. I'm glad that you have other felonies that will keep you in longer, to make you wake up in that cell longer. We have to wake up every day. I do. I'm struggling a lot with the loss of my sister, my only sister. I have to struggle forever. I don't forgive you, and I never will. That's all I have.
Any questions?
Mrs. Goddard, nothing.
Mr. Washburn, nothing, Judge.
Thank you for your comments. Any other witnesses? Does anybody else wish to be heard? No one else?
Mrs. Goddard, I don't believe so.
Do you have any witnesses?
Mr. Washburn, nothing, Judge.
The court. The court is inclined to accept the terms of the agreement, enter judgment of conviction for assisting a criminal as a level 5 felony, and impose a 1-year sentence. The court further finds that she has 2 prior unrelated felonies and enhances that sentence by an additional 4 years for a total of 5 years, none of which is suspended. However, the court would recommend meaningful incarceration. In the event that she is admitted to that, under the law, she is entitled to seek a modification sentence. It does not guarantee her a modification of sentence, but she would be entitled to seek a modification of sentence. That's under Indiana statute. You're going to be committed to the Department of Corrections for execution of sentence. We are awarding good time credit, which, with a level 5, she serves 3 days for every one, right? 75% of the sentence.
Ms. Goddard, correct?
The court. It's no longer day for day. She serves 3/4 of the sentence if she has good behavior. Plus, it can be reduced somewhat by virtue of her going through this purposeful incarceration. Having said that, the only comments I wish to make, and I don't wish this to sound like an advertisement, I don't know where all you folks are from. Lafayette?
Ms. Samuels. Yes.
The court. Lafayette certainly pays attention to their crime too. But when things happen in smaller communities, I think maybe we see them in more of a personal vein. We have to sit up here and keep a stoic face and do what we have to do. I want you to know that she is one piece of giant puzzle. I'm not saying she's cooperating with the state. I don't know what any of the terms are. To accomplish justice when you have so many defendants, you have to do a lot of things. The one thing I want to be able to look in all of your eyes and tell you is that this court cares. This prosecuting attorney's office cares. The sheriff office cares. We really care. Sometimes I get frustrated with living in a small community myself. We tend to sometimes develop a small community attitude. That couldn't happen here. As a matter of fact, someone made a comment to me. I can't take into consider ex parte conversations, but someone saw me in the restaurant and said, "You need to do something because that shit is too close to home." To which I responded, as opposed to the baby that was murdered in Brooklyn. The 3 people that were murdered in Sumarva, the lady that was clubbed like a dog. This is close compared to that because the deceased we found in one of your fields, so now it means something to you. It can happen to us every day. I'm suggesting to you that none of us really know how or why this happened. That's why I respect you referring to her as a coward. I might feel that same way myself, too. But as a society, we have come to that. It used to be you could go to a party and you were scared to death that someone's father would find out there's some underage drinking. Now you can go to a party and get murdered. That's how much we've changed. After this happened, how do we make it right? We are devoting our time to working with people who repeatedly use drugs and get themselves into trouble. And then we're going to create ways to try to help them get out. We haven't got around to finding a way to recreate another life for Nicole. This is going to continue to happen as long as we have a society that don't change. To you, and I know you folks are going to come back for these other hearings, you're going to have to compel yourself to go through counseling as your daughter has done and seek some type of healing and reconciliation. You're going to have to do it for your benefit because you can't do it for Nicole. You are just going to relegate yourself to a death sentence of your own if you don't. I'd like to urge you to do that. I have to agree with her. For the rest of your life, you're going to be relegated with the thought that this lady was strangled for no reason whatsoever. I hope you'll start changing your life. You had to have known there was going to be a party. There was going to be something going on. Presumably, you didn't know this would happen, but no good ever comes of these things. I'm hoping, as a result, do at least this much for Nicole. Change your own life. Can you do that?
Yes.
The court. Well, it's just more than sitting in meetings. You better start changing your life, or you could very well be the next Nicole. Do you understand?
Yes.
And with that, the court has passed judgment and sentence and now directs that she be remanded to the custody of the sheriff for transportation to the Department of Corrections for suitable placement. Court is adjourned.
Proceedings conclude at 9:52:48. Court adjourned.
And that is all 18 pages of Jasmine Parker's dispositional hearing. And Rhonda, I know that you had a couple of points on this that you wanted to discuss about the way this was handled and what your thoughts were.
Oh, thank you. As many people now are probably beginning to know about me, I always have something to say. And uh, the first time I read through this, I was angry. I am angry. Um, there's a lot to be said for um, abolishing plea deals. And this is a perfect example of why I feel that way. None of these people, including Jasmine Parker, should have been allowed to escape true justice in Nicole's murder by admitting partial facts or truth, and saying that, yes, I did this, yes, I didn't do this, and that's okay. Well, okay, good. You've admitted your wrongdoing. Now you're just going to serve a year in prison. And I'm not talking about the other additional charges that she faces. That's something different. She has more time from way I see this. She got more time for those other felonies than she did for being a part of Nicole's murder. And there is something very wrong with that you can make a plea deal and get away with taking part in a murder. And I think it's disgusting. And I feel strongly that we need to abolish plea deals. I know that's never going to happen. I understand that. I'm logical enough to know that that's not going to be a possibility. Also, the judge in this, I just felt like he says all the right things and, shows compassion to Miss Samuels and to Brittany and the rest of Nicole's family. But I feel like he was just saying words, things that he thought he should be saying. And I was really offended when he, spoke about, uh, you know, having all the other crimes that are occurring in the county. And I guess it was somebody else that was saying those things to him. And he was replying, well, we have so many other things that we have to, other crimes that we have to pay attention to and investigate. And, it made it just sound like, and this is just another one. I may have read that wrong. I may have understood that incorrectly. I was pleased that he allowed Miss Samuels and Brittany to say exactly how they felt, because that is important. There was no, reprimand of language or tone, and I think that's the way it should have been. They should have been allowed to express that, and that's what a victim impact statement is for. Quite honestly, I give a great deal of credit to Miss Samuels and to Brittany, because they were a lot more restrained. They said how they feel. They said how they expressed their feelings and their loss and their anger and their hatred for Jasmine. And I couldn't agree more with Miss Samuels. I don't know if I would have been as reserved. I'm just I don't know Miss Samuels, so I can't speak for, how she feels or how she expresses herself. But I know me, and I'm a hothead. when I'm pushed to the limit of how I feel about something, and I feel like an injustice is being done or is occurring, I'm a hothead. And if it has to do with my child or someone in my family, I would have used a whole lot more. I would have used a lot stronger language than Miss Samuels. I give her a lot of credit and respect for, holding back. Really, I'm not saying she was, 'cause like I said, I don't know her, but um,
She did keep her. They both kept their composure, and
they did.
I
Yes,
did.
yeah,
I
that's
agree with
exactly
everything.
what that's the best way to describe it. They held their composure. They were respectable. They were, they spoke their minds, but I'm a hothead, and there would have been a lot of, I don't know. I thank God I not been in this situation, and I pray to God that I never am in this situation, because my temper can get the best of me and my anger can take over before I even realize it when it gets serious like this. And you know, respect and praise to Miss Samuels and to Brittany for their composure and their respectful uh, um, statements.
Well, and for me, this when I first got my hits, and I wanted to take a moment to explain why I felt it was important that this get read prior to us beginning to cover Jasmine's interrogation video, and that's because of the way it hits. And what I mean by that is, there is in the course of this case, there was a lot of things that were fed to the media. Then there were a lot of the narratives that were put out there as to what transpired, and it always seemed that Talitha and Jasmine were in the foreshadows, as if their part was downplayed tremendously compared to what the narrative was with Garrett and Ashley. And that, I feel, kind of illuminates here in this document, because you have the one thing that the judge said that, well, actually there was a couple that the judge said that interested me. Was one, he kind of seemed bewildered on how we got to where we were in this document on that day in that courtroom, as to he wasn't really sure how much cooperation Jasmine was offering, but apparently, based on this plea agreement, there had to be some sort of cooperation going on, and he wasn't quite sure what that was. But he wanted to make sure that he let it be known that the judge, the sheriff office, the prosecutor's office all cared. And I found that interesting. And I think for those of you who are following what we're covering here, by reading this document, and then when we get into Jasmine's interrogation video, you're going to, like everybody that has known about this case for the past 4 years, you have this preconceived idea of what took place. And what this document right here does, it was a public document, it was a public hearing, and there were people who were there who left the courtroom and then shared what transpired. So this was the story. This was the story in this document right here on Jasmine Parker's behalf that was, sent out to the public for what transpired based on Jasmine Parker's version. So I felt it was very important to do that before we get into the interrogation video, based on how I believe when you watch the interrogation video, how that's going to hit you when it comes to what in the hell? These two things are absolutely nothing alike. And
Right.
nothing is brought up in this hearing. So it goes to show you that there are a lot of things in this case. Let's forget about what we know about every other case in the world. I'm talking about in this case. This right here, and along with Talitha, is factual proof of what goes behind closed doors can be completely different than what is presented even in a courtroom. So that's why I wanted to get this document out first. Then the other thing that he discusses is how people nowadays, used to, well, back then people could go to a party and be worried about getting caught for drinking. nowadays you can go to a party and get murdered. I would like to know if anyone between now and the end of this case coverage, if you can point out to me at any point in time where any person involved in this case ever claims that they were planning, going to, attended, or were at a party. And this is like the second or third time I have heard this as a underlining tone that someone's tried to feed a whole nother narrative as if everybody was at Jasmine Parker's to attend a party. And I will disclose another person who's made that claim on down the road, but we're not there yet. And I am not saying something like that, like, oh, I know something that you don't know. I'm trying to present this case as factually as we possibly can in the chronological order that happened and how things were fed to the public, what the public was digesting, what the narrative was circulating between the media, the headlines, the families, the public, and YouTube creators and podcasts. There was a narrative that was fed. So I'm wanting to hit the nail on the head with every single point that I can to show how that was a false narrative. So that's really important to me that that gets conveyed.
I completely agree with what you're saying. And you know, going back to the party thing, I was thinking the same thing when I read it the first time. I thought, party? What party? There is nothing in Jasmine's, Talitha's, Ashley's, or Garrett's in interviews that indicate that this was a party that they were attending. Pardon me, excuse me. A party. This makes it sound like everybody was just out having a good time and having fun, and oops, somebody got murdered. No, that is not that is not how I understand, based on all of those other police interrogation videos. That is not at all how I took that situation to be. It was not a party. I'm trying to watch my language here. It was not a party. It was, in my opinion, from what I've read, I feel like it was planned to take Nicole's life that night, and I think Garrett
Yes,
Kurtz
I agree.
planned it.
I agree.
There was no
With the
party.
help of people, there was no party, and I do believe there was. I do believe there was a plan. It was a haphazardous plan or an intent, and I believe that he shared it with people that there's other people that were not charged in this case that I also believe somewhat participated in these events. But I feel that from Jump Street, when you've got 5 people and you can really see it in Ashley's second, and we're going to get there, in Ashley's second interrogation video. It is almost like Detective Rowe was just done after dealing with Garrett and then going through with Jasmine. And there's going to be a lot of really telling things in Jasmine's interrogation video that people are going to just really, I think, walk away from that going, okay, we really need to pay attention here. But I feel that it was almost, there's so many people, there's enough people involved here. We're going, we've got our targets. And I feel that Ashley, because she was Garrett's girlfriend and she was somewhere in a place where she had never been, there was no reason for her to be there other than what she claimed was her reason for being there. And that was Garrett took her there after the hospital. I feel like they had their man, because I feel, and Ashley's first interrogation video, there is a lot of sympathy, I believe, from the detectives in that situation towards her. And then you get Jasmine in there, and Jasmine's got some other connections going on in that police department that's, it's going to reveal itself. But I almost feel like Talitha and Jasmine, they were left in the foreshadows. And I still feel like there's another document just like this floating around out there with Talitha. But how the storylines and the narratives were allowed to be so completely changed in that courtroom and it be allowed. Nobody, not even the prosecutor, and I agree with you, Rhonda, the fact that 1 year for this, 1 year, that is shameful when she's getting way more time for lesser felonies. So how that was allowed to happen is, again, the judge said it himself best. Small towns. That's what happens in a small town, and the experience level is much different with bigger metropolitan cities. And I guess the fault does lie with the prosecutor's office and the judge. However, you can't fault them for their lack of experience in how to handle a situation like this, especially when the judge feels like he's being, basically um, approached in public, being told to, do something about it. Make sure you take care of these people. That's, that's a small community who feels pretty empowered if they're walking right up to the judge in the community and telling him what his job is. So that's my take on
Right.
it. But as we get further down the line, I think all of this, I'm hoping that by the end of all of this, I will be able to do one huge live. This is my goal, one huge live where I put it all together from beginning to
It's going to
end,
be
where people were, where
that's
the
going to be
locations were.
that's going to be a long video, Amy.
It is.
It's gonna
It
be
might
a
have to
pretty long.
be it might have to be a Saturday marathon or something like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
and I also wanted to point out one more thing. Let me see, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. This was 7 months. This dispositional hearing took place 7 months after Nicole lost her life. And in this courtroom, they still had the date wrong.
Right. Yeah. I don't know about how judges
So
are assigned or if they're elected in that county, but when you mentioned, that the public obviously feels comfortable, approaching a judge in public and speaking their mind, demanding certain things, that's a lot of pressure. And especially if that's an elected official, if the judge is an elected judge, that's a lot of pressure, because he wants to keep his what's the word, constituents happy, right? He wants those votes for, if that's the case, he wants those votes. And even if it's not the case, judges are human, and they want to, even though they want to do what's right. And I'm not. I'm saying this generally and like as a blanket thing, which isn't fair, but it's very likely and very common that a judge wants to please everybody, obviously, but most importantly, they want to uphold their oath to the Constitution, and
it's politics. It is politics. I mean, that's the
politics.
that's the blanket term.
Yeah, and it is really, really tough. And I need to find out. And maybe you already know, Amy, but I am now curious about whether or not this is an elected judge or if he's appointed. But um, I
I feel like
it's a
I feel like
different.
I know the answer. I feel like I know the answer, but I don't want to say yes or no. I'm going to have to go back and look. I have a I have a little folder
Sure.
on the judge, prosecutor, and the residing prosecutor now, which is Miss Goddard. Durinsky's no longer the prosecutor there. But yeah,
Mhm.
that's my whole
Well,
that is my stance on it, is that this is, when you're dealing, and that's why I feel it's very important for people to understand what we're talking about here. When I talk about Ashley being from Delphi, that played a significant role in, in this case, simply because what transpires in Newton County isn't necessarily going to make headlines in Lafayette or Indianapolis or the other further, 2 and 3 hour away counties. But because of the Delphi case, it did. And it was
right,
something that stayed on the surface for a very long time leading up to Ashley's trial. And the fact that she was from Delphi and the fact that Garrett had such a close connection to Delphi, being her boyfriend, and his family being friends with Ron Logan, that all played a significant part. And counties do things to protect themselves. And if the
Yes.
public outcry at the time was that they wanted justice for Nicole, not that Nicole did not do that, that is not, that's why we're doing this right now. It's not, it's seeking justice for Nicole, but it's making sure justice was served. And if they did not, and there's going to be places and parts of this case that we provide, to the public where the investigation could have been a lot more thorough than it was. And if I can sit down and go through document after document, recording, interview, and reach out to people that I've never met before, then those detectives could have easily put the pieces to this puzzle together in a better way than what they did. I'm not knocking them, but what I'm saying is that the small county was looking for a win. So the community